Okay, hello. Assuming you've read the title of this video, you'll realise this is me talking about ratios of Earth cards in your deck. I've seen a few people ask about it. I thought I'd do a chat on it because it's content. We'll go. No, I think explain to people's kind of handy. People who are maybe newer to card games, not as invested in the mechanics, or new to a class or to the mechanics that come with that class, might sort of struggle to understand ratios of keywords. So the thing I'd start with is a sentence I use a lot is flesh and blood has basic lands, and some people hate that comment, but I believe it to be very, very true. So, at its simplest, we've had the channel cards for a very long time. There's the original cycle from... I'm really bad at set names, by the way. The tri-element set, basically, which, brought in Mount Heroic, Lake Frigid, and the Lightning one. Because again, I do not remember all the names. I don't need to know the names of a lot of the cards. I just need to know what they do. So I don't get necessarily all of them learnt, unfortunately. But they all have the same mechanic, and we've now had multiple other cycles of channels. The thing that they all do is basically they have this channel element ability, which is at the beginning of your end phase, you took cards of the correct element from your pitch zone, and if you don't, you lose them. So you get 2 or 3 turns of value if you can keep them going, and if you can't keep them going, you don't get the value. What this obviously means is they encourage you to play a keyword. If you're an Earth deck, you need Earth cards, or you can't keep your channel Millennium Tree. Earth goes even further with this one because it's bringing in Decompose. Banish 2 Earth cards and an action card, which can be an Earth card, from your graveyard to get a bonus effect on your Decompose cards. And this is why I kind of make the comment of basic lands exist, because especially in Earth, you run out of good cards way too fast. So if you look at, say, Draconic as a good example, you can fill your deck to the brim with Draconic cards, and I don't think you're losing quality at this point. I might be wrong. Like, you are barely dipping in how good they are. You can put like 0 for 4 go agains in, like all the way down effectively. It's a bit more complicated than that. Some of them obviously need sort of to combo up to get a value, but you are pretty heavily on value and running good cards. What you find with Earth is that the pool of good Earth cards is shallow. So to sort of go through them, because all the good ones are in my deck, I have got it up on screen. This needs updating, by the way. As I said, don't copy this exactly. This will work fine, but it's missing some stuff from the new set and a couple of tweaks I would do in terms of D-reacts. But I mean, it's still a solid deck. I'll be doing a new one soon once I've done a little more testing. But yeah. Channel Millennium Tree. Great Earth card. Amps your damage. You do have to build around it slightly, like make sure you have enough arcane cards in deck and stuff. But, good card. Please note it's red. So it's a 3 block. That is great. It is red. Red is a problem that kind of stops it being used for channels themselves. Like, you probably don't want to throw away a Channel Millennium Tree to keep a Channel Millennium Tree if you can help it. It's not actually a bad play, because obviously you don't have to pay to replace one. So if you had a channel in play and it's like turn 2 and you want to keep the channel, pitching it is better than playing it a lot of the time. But it's not what you'd want to do. Ideally you'd pitch a different Earth card and you'd keep this and you'd play it when you lose the first one. You have similar problems with, Felling is a great Earth card, Pulsing Ether is a great Earth card. Rampant it falls to the same thing. It's yellow, but and Plough also yellow. So all of these struggle from the fact that the good Earth cards you want to play don't efficiently pay for costs, which makes them bad for throwing away for Channel Earth. They are all fine for decomposing, so they have that going for them, but in terms of talking about ratios for channel, it gets quite awkward. What you have on the opposite end of this is if all your Earth cards are blue, it gets very difficult to double pitch. So if you want to get 2 turns out of Channel the Millennium Tree, sorry, 3 turns, not 2 turns, because you get 1 on the turn you play it. If you want to keep it at the point where it has 2 counters, you need an ineffective Earth card, so you do need to pitch, a red or a yellow at that point to keep it going. So what you'll see in the deck I'm playing is it starts dipping into slightly subpar things. So there is 1 yellow rootbound carapace. That is in there for... The primary reason is to give me 4. I'm of the belief that 4 is much, much better than 3. You get a relatively crap D-React, but it's still a D-React. You can still catch people out with it. I have a few times, blocked out with the yellow one around, and then someone's gone, I'll give it +3, and you obviously respond with +3. It's not a bad card, it's just middling. And, we're playing CCG, we're talking about it from a more competitive angle. Middling doesn't necessarily cut it, you want the best. But it's a trade-off. What this gives me is a couple of things. It's an extra Earth card that goes in the bin, that's a tick. It's an extra decompose, which means that I have more chance of getting off a D-React decompose before I have to play a felling or a plough, which means when you play your first felling or plough, you're getting the +4 damage. It's a really big deal. You do not want to plough under someone for 2. It is a bad time if that's what you're at. So it does that. The last thing this one does is it's yellow. So you do have that advantage of you played a channel last turn, you're on a new turn, and you go, right, I need to do some damage to my opponent. And you can go pitch a yellow, and you've got the root bound, throw it to the Surgeon, and then you can pitch, a blue or a red to play any of your 1-cost arcane cards, and you get to keep the channel for another turn, which will generate a lot of value. We're especially talking to people who aren't going to Arcane Barrier. If somebody is racing you and you can keep a channel around for an extra turn, like, we use the Carapace example, you will lose 3 blocks. You take 3 damage, you've lost 3 value from the card by over pitching it rather than playing it. But you've kept a tree around which does 6 more damage because you're going to get 3 from the Surgeon and 3 from the thing that hits after it. So it is better value to be able to pitch them like that than it is to play or block with them. This kind of leads on to, the way this deck is built. It runs yellow Fruits of the Forest. I started off on reds, I moved to yellow because pitching for 2 felt much, much more convenient. It's slightly worse into Prism, doesn't matter, you're going to lose to Prism. But it's also got the extra life gain, and I found it quite nice to have 3 sigils, 3 fruits, 3 more fruits, wherein you've got better access to the combo. So yellow fruits kind of made it into my build because it pulls its weight in 2 places. It pitches for yellow, which is quite a nice amount. Like, I would trade it in for another really good blue Earth, but we don't have them. So I think this is a really good choice. Personally, some people will very much disagree on that. They don't like the logic and the lines, but the other thing it does is it goes in the graveyard. So it gives me 6 Earth cards that I can just chuck out of my hand so that I can build Decompose without having to block. And, it doubles your chance of you having a turn 1 fruit to bin. Which, again, I think is kind of a big deal, because your Decompose can get going so much faster if you can, bin a load of stuff. If your opponent's going first and they kind of commit to not doing very much, and you've got like 2 fruits in hand and you get to bin them and redraw and have +4 life and 2 earth cards to start you off with your decomposing, that's great. And, one thing I'll say about this is it doesn't have much competition. That is part of this discussion. As we sort of go through the earth cards, you sort of see this a lot. So, I showed you the good playable earth cards that are not blue. So your channel, your fennel, your felling, your plough, all don't produce 3. Which is a problem for for resource consistency, right? If you draw all of those in your hand, you have a bad time because you can't play much of them. What you're going to move on to is basically what are the good blues. So we'll do the elephant in the room. Autumn's Touch. It is the best earth blue. It has no text and you rarely attack with it. But it is earth, it is blue, it blocks for 3. This is, I would say, the perfect example of Flesh and Blood has basic lands. We will run this forever. This got suspended, and if you're not familiar with the term, banned for a while, because it made a deck too consistent at one point. When Bravo Star of the Show was running amok, they physically took this off him, going, you can't have a blue 3 block with the earth keyword. So, the designers know that this is peak efficiency in earth. Now, I don't think earth cards blocking 3 is that big a deal. I almost find it a little weird, because if you look at ice has allowed it everywhere. Look at Icelander's deck where every single Earth Ice card blocks for 3. I don't know what the problem with the Earth cards is in general. There's a lot of talk about how it obviously comes down to this wonderful card, Embodiment of Earth. And more to the point, Briar. Briar made these very easily. She got very good blocking efficiency, and I think they wanted to keep her ability to block reined in a tiny bit. But, she's gone, so stop it, is my comment. It's also the thing of it does non-attack action ones, but they still make all of the Earth attack actions too. These cards are bad. There's no way about putting it. They only block for 2 and it stops them going in decks. And nothing about Earth form would break if it blocked for 3. Because you can't make it block for 4. You can't make it block for 5 by getting embodiments to it. So would it have killed them to leave it as a 3? I really don't think so. And it would have made more variety for the deck because, all these other good Earth, these other potentially good Earth cards do not get run because they do not block well, which means they are forced to be attacks. And if you don't want to attack with them, or you've drawn one of the actually good Earth cards, what are you actually going to do with them? It creates problems by them being kind of mediocre. So, this is where we sort of get to. So, in the blues, Autumn's Touch, great. Heartbeat of Candlehold, great. Earth card. Non-attack, which means it could block for 4 or 5. All really good. Does something, because Autumn's Touch doesn't. This is the best Verdance Earth card for sure. We will never cut this from our deck with the exception of playing into New, who steals and plays it. But ignoring outlying cases like that, this is a perfect card that we will never drop, as far as I know. And then you are immediately onto worse Earth cards. Like, we run out after 2. So, Fruits of the Forest. That is, loosely speaking, our third best one. It's got the life gain, so it helps with our combo. It's blue. Its an attack is really annoying. Like, if Fruits of the Forest was just an action with go again, so that it could be made to block for free and things, it would it would be so much better as a ceiling. But good solid card, blue Fruits of the Forest. It is a blue. It is Earth. And this is what we're going for. After that, you are struggling. So most people go on to blue Summer's Fall because, again, it's blue, it's Earth. And because it has relevant text into a few matchups, something like, I can't remember what the number is, 70-80% of decks have auras. So situationally, being able to look at somebody who's played a channel and go, yeah, I'm going to hit you with this Summer's Fall, I'm going to put it on the bottom of your deck, that can be really, really strong, which is why Summer's Fall nearly always makes it in. And at that point, you're kind of done. So this is where there's now sort of 2 diverging paths. You can go with running nothing else, in which case Channel the Millennium Tree gets a bit dicey because it can be quite hard to make sure you've got an Earth card the turn after you play it to keep it another turn. It can be sort of hard to get it and play it on the turn you want to because you might not draw an Earth card at the right time. And that can lead you to either just cut the trees entirely, which I'm personally not a fan of. I love tree. I'm playing Verdance, probably 50% for Channel Millennium Tree. Or you can just understand that it's going to be ropier and you're going to have to block with it more often because it's not going to do anything. And that is an acceptable line of play. Don't feel like you have to play Channel Millennium Tree out. It blocks for free. Blocking for free is good. And your other option is to start padding your deck with more Earth cards. So as mentioned, I've got this root bound in here. I've got these 3 yellow fruits. Incidentally, one of these is probably going to become Ring of Roses. That's my guess from where I've been testing things. What I've also crammed in is Earth's Embrace. So this is, again, it's a concession to the basic land policy. It only blocks 2. That's really, really annoying. I wish it blocked 3. If they release something that blocks 3, this gets cut immediately. It sometimes does something. It sometimes makes me an embodiment, like, if you draw it turn 1. It's pretty much the only time I use it for embodiments, but, you can use it to get an embodiment. And that will generate you, hopefully a couple of points of extra life or just a slightly better full block or something. But it's weak, right? Earth's Embrace has potential to be good down the line if and when they print us some more Decompose. Or, I don't know, if they ever print us an aura that banishes an Earth card every turn or something like that. There's a lot of options where this could end up being really good. At the moment, it's not. But again, what it is a basic land. Blue, Earth. And I tried several things when I was testing through what goes in this slot. If I come down to the bottom, this should also be down in here. So we have Seeds of Tomorrow. I'm getting tempted to put 1 back into the deck again, or at least I have 1 in the sideboard. You don't want multiples because you often draw it and it's bricked, and that's very, very irritating. But it's a solid card all in all. So I think one of those might creep back in instead of one of the Earth's Embraces. But I tested Sigils. Sigil's perfectly good. If you don't want to spend money on something, great, because it's a common. I preferred the Earth's Embrace to the Sigil because the Sigil doesn't give you the token for like an extra turn or so, which I found kind of annoying. and it doesn't destroy itself immediately, which sounds weird, but sometimes just trips you up a little bit on your carapaces. Like, there's sometimes where you'll get one on your first turn, you'll play it and go, I really wish I could decompose that, but it's not going to blow up until my next turn, so I can't. So I can't use a carapace, and I'm just going to have to sit on that, and it can cause some problems. So I'm not the biggest fan of sigil on that thing. The other thing, if you put sigil in, is that you can put the wizard gloves in, Ether Bindings of the Third Age, and that gets you a teeny tiny mini combo, which is not at all bad. I would rather run Stonewall personally, but Ether Bindings blocks for 1 and amps 1. If you've got a Sigil of Earth, just the first time a sigil goes and you can use up the amp, just use it up and have a free point of damage. 1 damage is 1 damage. I think that, gives it some sort of legs, but I don't love it overall. I did a lot of playing of Totem of Harvest. It sometimes does stuff, but I think it's a trap. You mostly don't want to do it, and you mostly don't want to put cards in your arsenal unless they're good. And if they're good, you don't want to remove them from your arsenal. It's not like Crown of Seeds where you can just constantly cycle cards through, because you've obviously got to set it up and you've got to keep a tome and another card in your hand at least. And yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I think it was a good choice, and I think it might be my second favourite choice. But, what it is. And then we have Sir Tomorrow. Sir Tomorrow is potentially really, really good, because it gets you some of your best cards back, right? So, Earth or Elemental Action card. I don't think we have any Elemental Action cards, but Earth Action card costs 2 or greater. Well, that is Felling the Crown. It's a big one. That's your channels. That's big. And it's your ploughs, which are fine. They're not as good, I think, but they're still good. Your problem is, puts them on the bottom. So it does 2 things. One is, it's removing earth cards that you can decompose. I don't like that. I want to eat a lot of my graveyard, if I'm being honest, because mechanically that's what the deck wants to do. So, if you play a Sir, it's an earth card that does not go into your graveyard, and it's an earth card taken out of your graveyard. So it's actually denying you 1 decompose, which I find to be a problem. And the other thing is, despite the fact that it's quite nice and it costs 1 and it draws you a card, you've got to have a card to target to be able to play it. So, it's got a lot of targets. You can put Fruits of the Forests on the bottom of your deck. You can put Autumn's Touches on the bottom of your deck. You have options. I think Summer's Fall can go on the bottom. You can put just a random card on the bottom of your deck, but one, you don't actually want to. That's not good text. Put target card you didn't really want in your deck back in your deck feels a bit rubbish. And the other thing is, if you don't have one, because you draw this early, you can't play it. You have to have a target. So, it forces you into pitching it. And then that leads you to the problem of, well, what if I really need to or want to pitch something else? Or what if, what if my hand is like, I don't know, a Sir Tomorrow and a Summer's Fall, and you're starting to get to the point where you're like, all right, well, I'm going to have to pitch one and play the Summer's Fall and attack for 4 just to get them out of my hand so I can draw a new hand. They can really clog your opening hand, and that's a big problem. God forbid you draw like two or 3 copies of So Tomorrow in your starting hand. Statistically unlikely, but it will happen to someone one day. Their starting hand of 3 So Tomorrows and them going, oh, well, I've got to desperately try and block for 6 on my opponent's first turn, or I lose. Great. That's why I don't like So in this deck. It's amazing in some other decks. Oldhim and Jarl both got great use out of this because it gets Oakenall back. Really good in some decks, not good in our deck, in my opinion. And that really covers like all your options for blue Earth cards, which is why, as I say, we ended up on Earth's Embrace, which isn't great. My blue ratio is 25 blues to 26 reds and 13 yellows, helping pick up a lot of the pace with the mana base. Like, I would love it to actually be a tiny bit more blue probably, but it is what it is. I am not cramming in more. I'm not adding terms to my Earth's Embraces to do this. After that, I've got some potions. I've got one Will of Arcana because I believe it to be good. I think it's bricked my hand once. I think I just didn't care. Like it's pulled a lot of weight in my opinion. And you've got 3 Ether Arcs and 3 Destructive Ether Tides. And Destructive Ether Tide I think is definitely worth it. You can blow up arsenals and get quite a lot of value out of it. So if people don't run Arcane Barrier, or obviously on tree turns, this little bugger does work. And if you assume that they're arseling good cards, it's you can add 3 value to its damage essentially because it's preventing 3 damage. So if you pitch a blue and go for this, it comes in for 3 total damage with your Surgent Ether Tide. And 3 doesn't sound great until you realise it's still actually doing 6 as a blue because it's taking away that Arsenal card, which cards roughly speaking have a value of 3. That's the base point. 3 and a little bit, 3.5. I think rounding down's easier, then you don't get overhyped on cards. But yeah, it's 3.5, 3.6. I don't know where it is. Yeah, I've never bothered to fully maths it. I know the ballpark. So, Destructive Ether Tide I don't think I'd ever drop. Ether Arc is meh, in my opinion. It's fine. I needed a blue. I wanted it to be a 3 block, and I did not want to, put more bad Earth cards in. So that's where we got to with running those. Just a bit of an aside. I think it's relevant to mention it because, obviously the question with how many Earths you run comes down to this part where you're going, well, actually, do you want Earth cards in this slot? This could be 3 of whatever's down here, 3 Sigil of Earths. It could be. But it doesn't block as well, and that's where I kind of find with my ratios. So should have probably added up before I got in here, but I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25, 28, 31, 34, 37. Got a potential 37 cards, I think, if I've counted that through correctly, of Earth. So that is more than half the deck. And feels about right, I think 34, 37 is the ballpark I want to run to do Channel Millennium Tree efficiently, and to also make sure that I'm not in a position where I want to decompose and I can't decompose because I've not found any Earth cards. The thing I would say is, if you're building your first deck, or your first Verdance deck, I would say go for 34. Maybe don't go yellow fruits despite me extolling their virtues, because they're not standard. Go with everything else I've kind of mentioned, pick a blue filler. Definitely obviously run your autumns, your heartbeat, your summer's fall, and your blue fruits. Definitely run your red root bounds. And see how you do. See how you sort of vibe with the amount. because I think personal choice is really important in this stuff. Because some people like consistency more, some people like not having bad cards in their deck more. Which is, again, it's the basic land conundrum. Running a card that is not good because you need more of the keyword is something that only some heroes and classes suffer from. Verdance is at the mercy of having a poor card pool. So it's not like she doesn't have good cards. She has some amazing. Let's just dwell on how good Felling the Crown is. It is crazy. It is like 12 value for 2 cards or something. Like absolutely disgustingly good card. But it kind of stands alone in the pool, right? Your Felling is great, your Channel is great, Rampant Growth is obviously great because we're doing silly combos with it and we love it. Nothing else is actually great. Heartbeat of Candlehold is not super good in terms of, assume we didn't need Earth cards. This probably wouldn't go in your deck, right? It's a weird place to be, I rate this card massively because we need Earth cards and it is one of the best Earth cards by a long way. I'm not sure it's actually good. Again, it's not bad. It's definitely, playable. It's not like some cards where they are hot trash and they're going to make your deck worse for being in there. But it's one of many cards where you're going, oh, this isn't super. Simple thing, compare it to that, right? Same effect, costs 1 less. It's so much better than that in terms of effects. However, this is a free block and it matters so much to us. And I don't accept her hero ability as an excuse for anything. Don't build her own person's hero ability. It's a nice treat sometimes. It's not something you're playing for. So yeah, that's really my strong advice in this after this long ramble. Try about 25 blues with what we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 Earth blues feels about right to me. If you're trying to make that decision, have a think, see how you feel. Have some games, see how you feel. If you're getting through the games and going, yeah, I really feel like I'm not able to keep my Millennium Trees in play, cram some Earth Yellow in maybe with the fruits. See if you agree with me on that. I think that all in all really comes down to it, get it done to your taste. Don't let other people dictate the meta does this to you, because this deck is not solved. And something I think I would really say here is I don't think Verdance is going to be solved for a long time because there are lots of suboptimal choices to pick through. If they release us 6 new 3-block Earth Blues in the next set for some reason, they're not gonna, but if they did, her deck would go so much faster towards being solved, right? Because, we'd be kicking out the yellow fruits, we'd be kicking out the Summer's Falls, we'd be kicking out the Earth's Embrace for sure. We'd probably be kicking out the Aetherax, we'd just be taking everything out and going, yeah, Earth 3 block, that'll do. And the best deck would be obvious. We're in a position where the best deck is not obvious. The best choice of everything is up for argument. There are people arguing you shouldn't be playing with Trey. I couldn't disagree more, but they're arguing it. There are people who are saying, well, you should be running 12 D-Reacts. I run 6, 7. I run 7. There are people who are saying, you should or shouldn't be running, various potions. There's people who really hate Healing Potion. put it on the screen. I hope you all see it. Hope you all see my healing potions. I love them because they put part of your combo on the table. You know, it's like a safe arsenaling of part of your rampant growth combo, and I love that. And it will take a lot to pry that from my hands. I mean, that really covers everything I think I wanted to say on, on these ratios. I think the last thing to maybe comment on is the ratios I've chosen, as I mentioned, are heavily on channel and millennium trait, and then they're basically on the idea of the only things I decompose for are fellings and plows for their effects. Your first root bound is definitely decomposed to try and get the other cards online. You are not necessarily decomposing future ones. Now, in an ideal world, you should. I'm not saying, don't do it. Just take extra damage. Being a 4-block D-react is important. But if I've only got 1 Earth card or 2 Earth cards in the bin or whatever, and I'm going, right, well, if I decompose them with root bound, I don't get to felling someone later, I'm not going to do it, right? I'm going to eat an extra point of damage to keep that online. So, that's kind of an important part of the ratios. One of the things that the being as earth heavy as I am means you almost always hit those decomposers with the fact that you have 6 you absolutely want to and 4 that you'd really like to. If you run more decompose cards, these numbers start changing a lot. So, I mean, if you're running less, stop decomposing entirely. Like, if you're not running felling, don't decompose. Is a genuine statement. I've only got one of these in my maybe pile. There's I forget what it's called. There's the gain a life decompose card that's I want to say 2 for 6 or 3 for 6. It's not good. Neither is this. Both the other decomposer cards and all the rainbow versions of all the decompose cards first and foremost struggle from being 2-block. Felling and plow make it in because they are 3-block. Felling also because it's amazing. Plow is interesting. Plow is good enough. It gets run. If plow was a 2-block, I don't think we'd play plow. I think we'd cut it. Because it's yellow, we don't like that. It's only 6 damage once it's online. It's only 2 damage before that. That's bad. The tucking arsenal is good, but it does hit our arsenal, so you've got to be careful how you use it. But it's made solid by being 3-block. And I think the same is true of these other ones. Cadaverous and... if I just go into edit, I can find the other one. Blossoming Decay, that's the name. Oops, did not mean to play my deck. Where are we? There we go. So 5 for 2 in red, that's bad. It's a simple thing, right? Like you are using 2 cards up for 5 damage. That doesn't feel good. If you decompose it, you get it up to 6, which is just about on rate for cards. It's poor. If you wanted to run decompose cards extra ones, they would mess with the numbers. Messing with the numbers and forcing yourself to run more bad blue earth cards to fuel blossoming decays and tillings feels bad, and I would recommend against it. They just don't pull their weight. That is a 3 for 8 that requires decomposing, and I don't like it. If I was gonna shove in big red earth hits, I would go straight to earth form. Being 7 is interesting because if they don't have a D-reactor 3-block, it's gonna actually pull its weight quite well, I think. Being 7 means that it's got some relevance into the Prism matchup because she struggles to stop it popping things. I don't build for the prison matchup, but if you were going to, I actually think it's an okay choice. Again, massively handicapped by having 2 block, but and this would obviously up your Earth ratio, but again, still not a good choice. I think I've covered everything I want to say there. Really, that last bit was just more of an aside, but again, basic lands exist, and your choice when you're trying to get your ratios together is that, I personally think you have to make a sacrifice of at least 1 deck slot towards Earth consistency. Yeah, I hope that's been informative for people who are wondering about it. I can't remember the person's name. I thought I would record this because it's something I've talked to a couple of people about before, and somebody on the Purple Discord directly asked the question. I thought, I'm going to record this and ramble at people. I like making this kind of content. It's a nice break from just recording Talishar games. And I hope it's insightful to people. Like, I really do, because if it's not, I'm wasting a lot of breath. To use the cliche, let me know in the comment section what you think of these, because if you all hate them, I'll stop bothering. If you like them, I'll try and think of other things to talk about, because there's a lot that I think you can dive through in terms of Flesh and Blood. It's it's a good game because it has a lot of lines to follow and a lot of choices to make. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next video.